Ladies and gentlemen, it is official that the end of Joel Embiid's 2024-2025 season is officially here. The Philadelphia 76ers have announced that their star player will be shut down for the remainder of the season, and the questions about his future have climbed to the forefront of the surface. I'm going to break down exactly what we know on the situation. I don't think this is the biggest shock based on the context of how we've talked about this situation, and in particular, the version of Joel Embiid that we've seen on the floor this season, but do want to dive into exactly what we know. And to start off with, we did get the Shams bomb saying Philadelphia's Joel Embiid has been ruled out for the season. As far as the Sixers overall, that they released this statement at the same time saying the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid have been consulting with the top specialist regarding ongoing issues with his left knee. After further evaluation, it has been determined that he is medically unable to play and will miss the remainder of the season to focus on treatment and rehab. We are working with medical experts to determine the exact treatment plan and will update the media when we have more information. The team and specialists will continue working with Joel to ensure his best path forward for his long-term health and performance. And I want to start by saying I'm glad they officially made this decision. That I was really worried we were going to do this dance where we hang in limbo for the remainder of the season. Will Joel Embiid play tonight? Will he not? And really, to me, at this stage in the season, what is the point of that? That we know the goals for this season are out the window. They're off at this point. That these championship aspirations, this deep playoff potential that this roster once hold, simply is not the case when you're 18 games below 500 with the 6th worst record in the league. And based on how the season has gone, based on the knowledge of Joel Embiid's situation, it makes way more sense for this team to chase that draft pick rather than chase a play-in spot. I understand you can squint and view a contender if you're in the eyes of Daryl, Morey, but you got to work with the results that are right in front of you. And as Paul George wisely said just a couple weeks ago, this team has shown zero habits of being a championship contender. Now, one line that did really stand out for me from the Shams report here, I did want to pull up in his article for ESPN, which he writes, Embiid had increased swelling in his knee following a loss to the Brooklyn Nets on Saturday night and underwent a new round of imaging on Monday to determine why his knee has not responded well to the treatment protocols he has received this season. The 76ers and Embiid consulted with dozens of doctors and specialists to determine their best path forward for the 7-footer. All season, Embiid has tried to play through pain in his knee, hoping it would improve as he got into better condition. He received numerous injections throughout the season, sources said, hoping to reduce the swelling and discomfort enough to enable him to play and be available for the 76ers. Instead of improving as he's played more, the pain and swelling have increased, and in recent weeks, that has shown in Embiid's and the team's performance. Nonetheless, there were stretches of the season where teammates and coaches would say Embiid performed well in practices, then sit out upcoming games, sources said. His daily status appeared fluid all season, and it has led to frustration among all parties. And this is the situation that we're really in. We know the state of this season. Where the questions are about the future for Joel Embiid. And to start with, for the trade Embiid in the comments, for the throw things away, I understand the frustration. I understand why you're getting there, but my pushback would be to who? That every other team in the NBA sees these exact circumstances that Embiid is dealing with. They see the diminished version of him as a player, and to reflect on his exact stats for the season, we're talking just 19 games played, 30.2 minutes per game, 574 total minutes, on averages of 23.8 points, 8.2 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 0.9 blocks. I believe this is the first time in his career that he's averaging less than a block in game, and he's averaged over 2 blocks a game before, shooting just 44% from the field, 29.9% from 3, a 58% true shooting percentage. Those are all career worst for Embiid by pretty significant margins there, that he shot over 50% from the field pretty consistently throughout his career, these two last year and his MVP season, and a 3-point percentage, really poor there. That this is not the version of Joel Embiid. This is, I don't know who this is, and I don't know if you can find the true version of Joel Embiid, but that is not it. And 8-11 in games that we've played, let's not forget all these seasons in which there were such drastic splits, the win-loss percentage in games that Joel played and games that he didn't, in the complete opposite direction here. That forever, they were unable to sustain the nights that he could not suit up. This year, they struggled to sustain in the nights that he was there. Now, for the trade Joel Embiid conversation and my pushback being to where, I just want to rattle off his contract figures and see if this fits in that statistical output here. So, as we know, he signed a 3-year, $192 million extension this past offseason. That has not even kicked in yet. He's making $51 million this year, $55 million next year, $59 million in the 26-27 season, then $64 million in the 27-28 season, and $69 million player option in 2028 and 2029. what NBA team in their right mind, based on the same information that we have in front of us, is looking at that contract figure and saying, sign me up? That is why, for better or for worse, we need to accept the reality that the Sixers and Joel Embiid are married. Now, with that being said, it is certainly true that there is more tension behind the scenes than ever before in the Joel Embiid process here, and really the relationship with him and the Sixers. This has started at the very start of the season. I know I've hinted at this before, but I have been told, like, when he first got to training camp this year, him missing those first couple games of the season was purely a Joel Embiid decision, that the team expected him to be ready on night one. He said his body was not ready, and that is sort of the disconnect that has been going on around his knee all season. Now, to stick up for the Sixers organization a little bit here, I do think that Joel has in his head this belief that there is this cure-all surgery that straight up is not there. That for Lonzo Ball, to use that example, I know I mentioned this on a previous video, the meniscus replacement. For starters, that was experimental surgery in the first place, and we don't even really know how he's going to fare. That yes, Lonzo Ball is back playing basketball, but you can't look me in the eye and tell me that is the same exact version of the guy who's dropping 30 points at UCLA on a night-to-night basis. And if we are going to stick with that logic, Lonzo Ball missed 2 full years of basketball. What does that do for Joel Embiid at this stage in the season? He's 31. To push him back 2 full seasons, we don't even got to get into the Paul George conversation. I'm talking about if he goes this route, I think there's a pretty likely percentage that Joel Embiid never plays basketball again. That is some of the reality that is on the table if they are going to go to these directions. And that is why, to the Sixers organization's credit, they've really avoided these tactics. That Embiid, who's been pretty outspoken about his desire to get surgery here, you should only do that if there's a clear outcome that benefits you. And I think in the Sixers' eyes, the risk reward was not there. That they opted to believe, with this contract in mind, this investment, this long-term commitment in mind here, that it is better off to use the less invasive procedures. Try things like injections in the knee. Go through rehab. See if your body adjusts to this quote-unquote new normal that is his knee. Now, obviously, that has not worked. That I don't think you can look at the version of Joel Embiid that started this season and the version that played most recently and even act like that is the same guy. And again, to reflect on his stats for the season, that's just not the MVP caliber version of Joel Embiid that we have come to expect. And for this Sixers team, it is clear that the focus on this year is to full out try and get that draft pick. For Embiid, those are the larger questions and ones that I do think will impact the future of this season. I want to wait until we get a little bit more information to go dive deeper into that, but I do expect that they are going to pursue all avenues. There's a fairly high chance that we do get this invasive, innovative surgery that does, attempt to fix whatever it is he's dealing with. But there comes with a point that at minimum, he's had 3 meniscus surgeries already. And I say at minimum because Joel Embiid is incredibly private about his health information. So it is entirely possible that there are things that we do not know about. We do know he's gotten 2 surgeries on his feet. We do know he's gotten 3 surgeries on his meniscus before. We do know he's broken his face 3 times, had a torn ligament in his thumb. The bottom line is this guy's body's been through war, and it is a tough break to continue trying to bounce back from these. Now, to acknowledge the Sixers overall, we do know that they have now dropped to the 6th worst record in the NBA. And to kind of reflect on their odds here, first I want to pull up on Tankathon their exact chances of keeping their pick. As you can see, the 6th worst record in the league at 20-38. That's a 34.5% win percentage there. What does that mean exactly? They have a 37.2% chance at a top 4 pick, a 9% chance at the number 1 overall pick. And to give the odds of just keeping the pick straight up, if they were able to drop to one of the 2 worst records in the league, which I do unfortunately think is impossible there, that would be a 100% chance. Where I do think that they can get to is that 5th pick there. That 5th best odds. If you can have a 64% chance at keeping that pick, that's not a bad spot to be in. And to pull up the Tankathon odds once again here, that there are teams that I do believe could pass them. That Toronto Raptors team does not completely suck. They're young and they compete on a night-to-night basis. The New Orleans Pelicans, they have a lot of talent on that team. Now, obviously, they're in kind of a similar boat. Zion Williamson, who's been playing incredible basketball, they have him such locked on a leash to make sure that he's basically not impacting winning at too high of a level. But that is a team that I can see accidentally win a couple. They beat the Suns last night. Could see that continuing to happen. Those are really the 2 teams that I have my eye on. Would really like one of them to pass the Sixers to the year's conclusion. And for the rest of this season, I have no problem with continuing this shutdown process. Paul George, who reportedly is also receiving injections to play. Why? Tyrese Maxey, who's complaining about his hand hurting after the last loss. why is he continuing to play? This season is off the rails. It is over for Joel Embiid, and there's a decent chance it is over for this core. But for the short term, it is shut everybody down. It is prioritize this draft pick, and then you figure out your outlook from there. Things look a little different if all of a sudden we're discussing a starting five of Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Cooper Flagg next year. Now, is that an incredibly optimistic lens I'm viewing it through? For sure, but that is something that is on the table, a possibility. We got to take each of these situations in stride here. So for the time being, prayers up for Joel Embiid. Do hope that this is not the beginning and the end and more of the beginning of the recovery process, but I do think we'll get more information on that moving forward. I'm not shocked that the decision was made. Again, I'm relieved that they actually made an official decision rather than continuing to string this along for the remainder of the season, but it is obvious that if that is the version of Joel Embiid we have forever, we are going to probably have to talk about a new era of Sixers basketball. Prayers up for the big fella. Do hope that is not the case, but let me know what you guys are thinking in your head below. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video as always. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video here. I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.